Welcome, classic rock fans, to a review, and in fact my first review of 2021. And today I want to talk about an unknown album by a fairly unknown band, certainly outside of the Melbourne area of Australia, and the band is called Teak. I frequently get asked to respond to new albums by new bands or struggling bands. Often my inbox is inundated with biographies, picture and MP3 files. And I must admit, I do like to record a response or write some sort of review for a lot of the music I am sent. It is very good after all. And there's an awful lot of traffic in terms of this channel, my Patreon and other things I've got going on. So something really has to be special in order to grab my attention. And this came as a bit of a bolt from the blur. This album announced itself with its gorgeous guitar tones and post-grunge splodge of sound. It's also got some exquisite acoustic moments as well. No Mellotron, but hey, you can't have everything. The band is called Teak, and their eponymous debut album, perhaps, as the name suggests, is pretty solid stuff. It's very much no-nonsense rock, and one can detect the influences of bands like the Foo Fighters, Kiss, Red Hot Chili Peppers, not to mention a serving of humble pie. I will place a card up there for you to check out their YouTube channel and listen to some of their music. A lot of the music I get sent seems to be by bands that have a proclivity for volume and angst. It's not often I get music sent to me that has a proclivity for volume and melody, and I do like a bit of quality tunage, probably showing my age, I suspect. I mean, I ummed and ahed whether or not to record a response to this album. When I heard the first track, Loaded, a track that's loaded with infectious guitar lines and an anthemic chorus, I was pretty much sold. I thought it was an album that definitely warranted a review, or a response at least. All the songs were written by Steve Draper and Aaron Ninnes, I hope I've said his name correctly. But it was produced and engineered by Warren Hammond at Penny Drop Studios. Warren also contributed some vocals to 2 or 3 songs, and also, I believe, is behind the cover art. A jack of all trades, it would seem. The cover has a real classic rock feel. It employs certain imagery and iconography that we associate with the heyday of rock music, whatever that was, with a hand on the front, which is very much asking us to stop and consider the contents therein. It's worth noting, of course, that Warren Hammond is pretty well known in Melbourne for his involvement with the rock scene and progressive rock scene there. And one can certainly appreciate on this album his attention to detail. I think he's certainly been instrumental in bringing about what the band were expected from this album. This band were formed in Melbourne, and their raison d'etre, so to speak, was to produce and play music that very much lived up to their aforementioned influences. They had come together earning their chops playing in several cover bands in the area, and they shared a specific vision, and that was to produce music that was just pure rock, devoid of any affectations and studio trickery. And what this does is it gives this record a distinctive vibrancy and live feel. From the get-go, there's a feeling that they revel in retrospection and a sense of no-nonsense rock, even insisting on using valve-driven amps. The band members have said that they chose Penny Drop Studios due to the wonderful drum sound that was achieved there, and that's certainly apparent on this record as well. And it just sounds great. It has a clarity and an energy from a band you would expect to have a much heftier budget. These songs actually started off as acoustic demos, and according to Steve Draper, they were very much in the style of Nick Drake. I suspect minus this sombre refrain and sense of melancholic desperation. Hanging on in desperation is indeed the English way. But these folk stylings were reshaped into something much rockier, less home counties pastoral, and more transatlantic. Can we use the adjective transatlantic when we talk about an Australian band? Anyway, a more transatlantic feel. This is a set of songs that was shaped by being performed in front of an audience, and that intrinsic sense of playing live is definitely captured. Pure and simple, there's no narrative, there's no thematic thread, just the purity of the performance itself. And it's that sound that very much encapsulates the ethos of this band. Unfortunately, the band's last live performance was 2014, although I'm kind of hoping by asking me to do this review there's an intent to kind of reinvigorate that, to perhaps start playing live again and perhaps producing music. I just hope this generates some interest. So if you think about the songs on this album, and my catchphrase these days is, if I may refer to my notes, the first song I listened to was This Time. I loved the start of this. The guitar intro was fabulous. The guitar tone generally was absolutely wonderful. And I love the use of minor chords as well. It gives a sense of pathos, I think, ultimately in a song about a well-meaning promise to a newfound love. The band have described this song as just a fun, rocking number, but I think they do themselves a disservice. It's far more interesting than that due to the band interplay, the structure and the instrumentation. And I love the midsection as well. It reminds me of Welcome to Paradise by Green Day, although slightly slower. Something Blue is a more up-tempo number. It Bristles of Rage, which is apparent from those stabbing guitar notes at the beginning. Again, great use of minor chords beneath the spiky, rage-intoned vocal. A great anthemic chorus as well. I mean, I notice a lot of these songs, it's just I said it at the beginning, their adherence or well-tuned ear for melody is really remarkable. It's a song that speaks of betrayal, and I must admit I love the way it slows down to a canvas of choppy guitar parts and vocal interplay toing and froing around about the sort of 2-minute 20 mark. The band have said of this number it's very much about the woes of the struggling while the elite take all the power or take control. In some respects it reminds me a little bit of Marillion's The New Kings, although the Marillion number of course is much more panoramic in its scope, where this seems to be sung from an individual perspective. The band have said this started off as just a collection of riffs. A lot of the best songs do, but they kept jamming it until it kind of evolved or took shape. The next track, Looking for You, the opening of it reminds me a little bit of R.E.M. And it's got a wonderful lyrical refrain in this, burnt the kindness from your heart. What an interesting metaphor that is. It's quite a mournful number, essentially dealing with lost love, and I love the bass flourishes in this. I love it when the bass really announces itself and distinguishes itself from the other lead instruments, and that's certainly apparent here. The next song is Loaded. It starts off some really exquisite, intricate guitar work, and such a great chorus. I must admit, I really, really do love this number. The piece that you want will be loaded. I mean, what a great line is that. I must admit it has a kind of ghostly vibe, which is ultimately a song about acceptance and moving on. Lovely use of harmonics in this, and the vocals have a growly texture to them. They remind me a little bit of James Hetfield. And you get this wonderful siren-like guitar at the end, which has a jarring, disorientating effect. Almost a sense of menace, if you like. The band have said that the song was a real musical challenge to get it to where they wanted to be, but I think we can agree that it was definitely worthwhile. Message is another interesting one. A nice bit of backward guitar at the start, probably the only kind of studio trickery employed. It's one that evokes a sense of angst and danger as we start to think about more dystopian narratives, the idea of being constantly observed, Big Brother and all that sort of thing. And this one really kicks into life with pace and power chords abound. Drunk and Obscene again starts on some nice delicate acoustic phrasings before the rather plaintive vocals that introduce a series of rhetorical questions. This in itself creates a sense of intrigue, supported of course by the sad phrasings of the guitar. The song represents almost a kind of a stream of consciousness ramblings of a jealous man. And I have to say there's a wonderful crisp drum sound on this. The band have said that they wanted to touch on an alternative country blues feel. I'm not sure if they've actually achieved that, but it's absolutely wonderful nonetheless. In the Morning, like its namesake, has a fairly bright and choppy start. I think this is very much an attempt to create or evoke that early 70s rock sound. I can almost hear tones, intonations of Slade and T-Rex in this one. A great melody and groove that just rolls along. In the Morning, you'll be fine, they sing. Well, you can't argue with that, can you? Endless Voice is an interesting one. The intro of it does not remind me of Dr. Love by Kiss. Great midsection with the interaction with the guitars is definitely worth checking out. And it's a song that seems to speak of information overload. The next one, Binders and Grinders, contains the wonderful line, "How can I be near you when you're gone?" This interesting paradoxical phrase or metaphorical phrase is one that's explored in the New Kansas album as well. The absence of presence, shall we say. This is, again, interesting guitar tones on this, lots of jangly interludes that remind me of the stuff the Byrds were doing in the late 60s. Ultimately, it's a song about changing direction, and the alternative tuning on this gives the song an interesting tonal quality. Great bass sound on this, some delicate guitar work, and the backing vocals are quite ghostly, contributing to the, I think, overall emotional impact of this number. I Can't Understand is the next one. Has a great drum intro before the guitars announce themselves in quick successive distorted stabs. The aggressive vibe and tone of the music perfectly complements a song that's essentially about broken promises. The next song is rather interestingly titled St. Catchton. It's great skiffle sound to the start of this with the acoustic guitar phrasing. Again, it's a wonderful song that makes use of alternative tuning. It's a personal and reflective number that conversely has a rawness to it. If you're interested, St. Catherine was a 16th century Catholic priest and religious reformer. He was known as the patron saint of Argentina and good fortune, which of course is what I wish this band. The band have said that this song is very much about aspiring to goodness, and as St. Catherine himself said, through loving actions, souls are purified. I enjoyed this album. I feel genuinely grateful it was sent to me. I honestly hope that this review generates some interest. Below this video you will find a number of links for ways you can connect with this band and their music, and I hope you do just that. Anyway, you've been watching an album review from Classic Album Review. I hope you're staying warm and staying safe, and as I always say, more importantly, do keep listening.